with members of Mr. Monroe Isidore's family to have a community discussion in light of the fact that he would have turned 108 years old on Monday. With me is his daughter, Paula Isidore, his other daughter, Roberta Foster, and Katie, and Attorney Lawrence Walker out of Little Rock, Arkansas. And my name is Attorney Benjamin Crump. With Attorney Walker, we represent the children of Mr. Monroe Isidore. We come here simply put to provide information that you all may not be aware of. And we look forward to a community discussion to make sure we bring light to what really happened when Mr. Monroe Isidore, at 107 years old, was tragically shot to death by the Pine Bluff Police Department. Simply put, they executed Grandpa as he laid in the bed.
That's right.
And don't take my word for it, the video is very clear. They saw the video. They watched the video. They made the decision after the tear gas was thrown into the room to rush the room. There are so many questions that boggle the mind about this case. The execution of shooting him 8 times. They shot him so bad that these pictures are almost unable to be shown on television. We're going to send them to you electronically. But they blew his leg off. They blew his arm off. They shot him in his chest. And they blew his head off so bad that the funeral home had to put a hat on him at his homecoming services. His family has made the decision to make sure you saw what they did to their father, because they don't want his death to be in vain. And they, no matter how painful it is, they have made the tough decision to show how he was executed while he laid in the bed. The officer who shot him gave sworn testimony during the investigation that he blanked out. There are so many questions about the training and the supervision with this SWAT unit that engaged Mr. Monroe Isidore. We believe that it will be shown there was a lack of training and supervision and following regulation that led to Mr. Isidore's death. We believe very clearly that this was so preventable in so many ways. The gas would have took effect at 107 years old. You believe that he would have went to sleep.
He would have.
If you claim that he was shooting bullets, he had a little 6-shooter. There would have been no bullets left. Why did you have to execute Grandpa?
That's right.
That is the question, not only that's been asked in Pine Bluff, but everybody who hears about this tragic story asks the same question. At this time, Ms. Paula Isidore is going to make some comments, and then Attorney Walker and I will try to answer whatever questions you may have.
Could you tell us where you're from before you do that?
I'm based out of Tallahassee, Florida.
Thank you.
Parks and Crump Law Firm.
CRUMP?
CRUMP, yes ma'am.
Hello, everybody. My name is Paula Isidore. I am the daughter of Monroe Isidore. And just to tell you a little bit about my dad, he was a God-loving man. I mean, everything he did was tell us and try to tell anyone that listened, if you believe in the Lord and do what he says, you'll live to be as old as I am. My dad went to church, and everything he did was for the Lord. Now, for my dad to be shot and killed by Pine Bluff police officers, people that my dad trusted in, he donated to their organizations. And for them to come in and murder my dad like they did, that was unnecessary. I mean, they shot him up so bad that my dad couldn't even have his head was blown off.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody don't know that. And for my dad to be shot and killed like he was, we the family, we want justice for him because his death was in vain.
That's right.
And that's all I have to say.
We'll try to take some of your questions now, as much as we can. Attorney Walker and I are getting ready to strategically fight for the honor of Mr. Monroe Isadore's life, and we plan on getting a lot of information, but based on the information we have now and the information that was shared with the family by the special prosecutor in the investigation demonstrates clearly that this was excessive force and that their training and supervision and their regulations were not followed. Yes, sir.
In light of the state findings that cleared the officers involved, what is your next process to go to at this point?
Well, you know, certainly the family will ask for federal intervention, and they have the right to bring civil litigation against the city of Pine Bluff and its police department, because this family desperately wants justice for the honor of their father. He was 107 years old, had never ever been in any trouble with the law, over a century. This is his first interaction with the law, and he ends up like this. It just does not make sense.
Have you had any interest shown from federal investigators at this point, or?
Certainly, where we were contacted by the family and talking with Attorney Walker, we have some history in dealing with federal government and federal investigations. But I think what we have here is videotape showing what happened. And I think that is telling. I think the people, once this videotape is released and everybody can see it for themselves, the entire video, and you can use your common sense to see if it was necessary to kick down that door and execute Grandpa. It was nothing short of an execution when you look at him in this bed.
And they have
Nothing short of an
bulletproof shield, too.
execution.
Come on now.
And when you really think about it, and we will provide these photographs to you electronically, but you get to see how they blew his arm off, how they blew his leg off, how the bullet was in his torso, how his head was blown off, 8 shots while he was laying in bed. The whole time he's in the
Yeah, I
bed.
heard about it.
So, yes, sir.
Attorney Crump, I don't know whether you are aware, but we did do a
Yeah.
press conference, and we had the police chief at the press conference. He said out of his own mouth that if a situation like this happened again, he would do nothing different. There'd be another old elderly man killed. So my question is, are you going to be pushing for change in terms of leadership in the department? Because from what he said, if it happens today, we have another dead 107-year-old man on our hands. It'll be the same place.
Or a woman, for that guy.
That's right.
Attorney Walker and I will be handling the legal matters, and it's going to be up to the community, all of us, to send a message that this is not right and that this can't happen again. And just insensitivity to say to this family that I would do nothing differently.
Right. Exactly.
If that was his father,
Exactly.
Oh,
how
his
would
words
he
were-
feel?
He said he wouldn't have been there.
You know, it is very troubling
Say it.
to say this to this family
Yes, it is.
after their father is killed in the bed like this. So we will pray that the community will respond, and that's why we're happy that you all came on short notice from the family to try to address these matters, because it really is up to the community, the Pine Bluff community, to pass judgment on what happened to Monroe Isidore. All the rest of America will be watching, but it is your community, it's your police department.
That's right.
You are the people of Pine Bluff. And Donna had made us aware that that was his comment, that he would do nothing differently. And so that is a comment that, as we go forward with the legal matters, will be out there.
My name is Michael McCray, and I spent a little time in Tallahassee when I went to college at Florida A&M. I am so happy to see you here because I think that what happened in this situation is really outrageous, and it's actually disappointing that it's gotten this far without more activity, without more of the community being more outraged. But I think this is not the end. I think this is the beginning. When you talk about whether the case is about who shot Grandpa, I put it this way. If Mr. Isidore, if that had been Mike Beebe's father, he'd be alive today. They wouldn't have pulled that trigger. And as far as all the people that are talking about the prosecutor cleared him, just because it's legal don't make it right.
That's
There you
right.
go.
Slavery was
That's
legal,
right.
but it wasn't right.
That's
Slavery
right.
was legal, but
That's
it's not
right.
right.
That's
So
right.
we're here to address the wrongdoing of what's been going on, and I don't want to call it, well, it's not a cover-up yet, because we're still working with the process.
Yes, it
But
is.
the one thing, my question to you is,
No, no, fam.
when you talked about gave a litany of the things that were going wrong in terms of lack of training, and I forgot what you said. 4 or 5
Supervision.
things. Supervision.
Regulation.
I would ask if you're going to consider the fact that we now have a police department where the police officers don't necessarily have to live in the community. And I just
That's right.
feel that if our police officers lived within the community, if they was one of us, as opposed to coming in like a occupying force, that they would think twice about killing our residents and
That's
then a
right.
week later saying they do it again.
That's
So
right.
is that, are you gonna amend that, or is that something that you're gonna look into as well?
Well,
That's
I
right.
think this is why we're having this community conversation, and let Monroe Isidore's tragic death be a catalyst to change, to say we in Pine Bluff demand change. We demand our police officers and our police department and our city officials to be responsive to us, to live with us, to know us, to respect us, and certainly not to kill us.
Absolutely.
And I think it bears saying that Miss Isidore and all her siblings, they think long and hard about, do we stand up? Do we show these pictures? They refuse to be silent on the basic premise that if we don't do anything now, what happens when it's your parents?
That's right.
And, you know, Miss Isidore shared with me just a week ago or so, there was a neighboring city to Pine Bluff that had another standoff situation. They contacted the family member. It took over 8 hours, but he came out alive and nobody was executed. What is different about Monroe Isidore at 107 years old?
Exactly
That's
right.
right.
He was black brother.
Yes, sir.
You plan a wrongful death suit, or what type of suit are you seeking civilly at this point?
Well, hopefully his family want the Pine Bluff Police Department to be held accountable
That's
and the
right.
shooter to be held accountable.
That's right.
You know, the testimony is in black and white now.
That's right.
He said he blanked out.
The shooter?
Yes, that's what is in the
Why is
investigation.
he even working?
Is that what they told you, Mr. Gordon?
Why is he even working?
Brad Vilches blanked out.
That's what he reported.
He didn't look like he had blanked out down, was working behind the counter.
So that is going to be
He
the
lied.
question. That is going to be the question for us to vet this investigation, and we're going to make it available to members of the media. It's a long investigation, but it's going to take all of us looking at that, and that's why we feel so confident after looking at that investigation that they didn't follow their regulation. They didn't have enough members when SWAT made the decision to engage. I understand that people who were not even trained in the special weapons and tactical unit was allowed to engage Mr. Isidore. And so these things are troubling when you think about this result.
Yeah.
This result. And if you would have negotiated with them, just using your common sense, they knew who was in the room.
Yeah.
They knew he was 107 years
Yeah.
old.
That's right.
You know, you can apply
You knew the game
your
was good.
common sense with your training and get a far better result in this matter. And we're not saying we're Monday morning quarterbacking.
That's right.
You're just trying to say, hold on, why did you have to go in the room? Why did you have to go in the room? There was nobody in the vicinity of harm. He was in the room by himself.
In his
You
own
had a
room.
camera watching him, and you had just sent the tear gas in. Tear gas works on everybody. I'm pretty sure it's going to work on a 107-year-old
Without a
senior
doubt.
citizen.
Without a doubt.
And if you give it a few minutes, he gets out alive, his family gets to interact with him, communicate with their father, and have him be where he needs to be, versus charging that room, 8 shots to his torso, his head, his arm, his legs. The homecoming wasn't a good homecoming because they had to cover up so much of him. Because as the mortuary said, they could not do anything.
I didn't even look
I have a problem with the entire situation. Now, even though I feel like Pine Bluff Police Department in general is held liable, but the person that made that phone call to get the police there, what about her? She just owned the house. Why did she call the police there? The person that rented the house carried him to get the weapon. There is no reason for Mr. Isidore to be laying out on the dirt.
Well, I would tell you there are a lot of things we have to look at in the investigation. You try to think of these things as a collective, and the government officials here, the people who are supposed to be trained and qualified to deal with these situations, are the people who killed them. And as the gentleman said to my left, it really becomes a community issue about how the police treat our mothers and fathers, how they treat our children, and how they treat us, exactly. And it really comes down to you all to question the mayor, question the police chief, and say, what are we going to do about this? And if they don't give answers that are acceptable, you all have a right to voice your concern in a number of ways in our democratic process. The family has a duty to try to fight for the honor of their father's life. They ask you to join them. They have employed us to do whatever we can, whether that be civil litigation for his wrongful death, whether that be inquiries to the Department of Justice to come to Pine Bluff and investigate, whether that is to look at the former leaders of the police department to see if there was training and supervision that were not done appropriately, to see if a pattern existed,
Not
to
qualified.
demonstrate that this was foreseeable. And those things become very technical, but they're so critical to making sure nothing like this ever happens again. No family,
Right, that's right.
no family should have to
Right.
see their grandfather go through this. And as his family said, the doctor said he was in good health.
That's right.
His birthday would be on Monday. He would be 108 years old. And who knows how old he would have lived.
That's right.
You know, they had a thing in the USA Today newspaper. They had 2 veterans who were also 107 years old, and they talked about how life was for them and how they believed if you tried your best to be a good example to people, that you would die nobly. There was no nobility in Monroe Isidore's death.
That's right. Tell the truth, man.
Yeah, are there any other questions? I know the community, we have
So
a
it
lot
took
to talk
Mr.
about.
Isidore's death to get the community involved. Crime has been raging here in Pine Bluff for years. Black on black crime, white on white crime. Tashara Bannister, drug deal gone bad. no charges dropped. Mr. Isidore, 107 years old, never hurt anybody. Enjoyed seeing him living on Main Street when it was his time for his, on Olive Street, when it was his time for his birthday, and he'd have a sign by there. Happy birthday, honk. 107 years old. What did he do to deserve to go out like there's no reason that man should be dead? But it's a cover-up.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
It's a cover-up.
Well said, man.
Kyle Hunter
That's
stepped
right.
down before the investigation even got started. How can a unit investigate themselves?
That's
A
right.
lot of lying and cover-up is what's going
That's
on.
right. That's right.
What kind of training did Jeff Eubanks have before Debbie Hollingworth brought him out of retirement from a different county?
That's right. That's
We
right.
need some answers.
Those are all the questions we have to ask.